Chapter 1, verse 1 of the Gospel of John reads, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." Okay, so what on earth does that mean? Well, to most Christians, it means Jesus existed since the beginning of time and is co-eternal with God. Then, as verse 14 reads, the Word became flesh and lived among us. But why is Jesus the Word? What is meant by the word, word? If you have a Bible that has liner notes, you might know that in the original Greek, the word used there is logos. Now, logos doesn't really translate as word in the way we English speakers understand it. It's actually more akin to what we think of being logic, though as with any language, something is lost in translation. The authors of the New Testament lived in a time and place that was dominated by Greek culture. And in the centuries prior to the birth of Jesus, the Greeks had come up with a variety of ways to explain the concept of logos. The first person to write about the logos in great detail was the philosopher Heraclitus. For him, the logos is the cosmic principle of the material universe. It is what underlies all rational phenomena. It can be observed in individual objects and in the larger picture of the cosmos, on the microcosmic scale and on the macrocosmic scale. He referred to these as the one and the all, and the two have a reciprocal relationship because of this common thread known as logos. And because humans are capable of reason, we are therefore drawn into this relationship between the one and the all. The logos is what enabled humans to participate in the ordered rational universe. It's what made reason possible. For Plato, it was rational explanation, often in contrast to myth. For Aristotle, logos is what distinguished humans from the animals. And though these are the two giants of ancient philosophy, they had little to do with the idea of logos and how it is used in the book of John. The Christian interpretation ultimately is derived from the Stoics. Stoicism was founded by Zeno in the early 3rd century BCE. In their pursuit of knowledge, the Stoics used as its starting point this question: how must I live in order to be happy? In finding the answer, the logos played a pivotal role. They saw it as the expression for the ordered and harmonious purposiveness of the world. It was equated with God as it pervades the cosmos and extends through matter. But though it is equated with God and has its origin in Him, it remains distinct from Him. It's a paradoxical idea, much like Heraclitus' conception of the one and the all. The Stoics believe that humans are able to raise themselves out of the delusion of reality by means of their own logos, thereby cultivating a relationship with that which is earlier or greater than the logos. Okay, so the Stoics believed that in order to find true happiness, one had to use reason, employing his own logos in order to come to a greater understanding of the universe, of the all. Now, this is the basis for what is being said about Jesus in the opening verses of the Gospel of John. However, John was not the first one to correlate Jesus with the Logos. Actually, the first ones to do so called themselves Christians, but were considered heretics by the apostles and other influential Christian writers of the first century. This heretical group were known as the Gnostics, and the Gospel of John is a direct assault on their brand of theology, which at the time was seen as a threat to Christian orthodoxy. One of the Gnostics' central beliefs was that Jesus had no physical reality, that his appearance on earth was just that, only an appearance. In their view, an evil god called the Demiurge, which also happens to be the god of the Old Testament, created the material world. Human beings, however, are divine souls trapped in physical forms. Hope for liberation from the corrupt material world, therefore, was not lost. This point is illustrated in a Gnostic document called the Original Teaching. Here's an excerpt. Our soul is truly sick, for it dwells in a house of poverty, and matter wounded its eyes, wishing to make it blind. Because of this, it hastens after the word, and lays it upon its eyes like a medicament, swallowing them and casting the blindness from itself. Like the Stoics, the Gnostics viewed the Logos as an instrument for man's redemption. It is a way out of a less desirable state. So when Christ is associated with the Logos in the Gnostic context, he becomes a means by which one can escape from the material world. In contrast, the Christian orthodoxy was very concerned for the material world. They spent their time caring for slaves, widows, orphans. It was the religion for the poor and the needy. Gnostics, instead, devoted much of their time to learning magic passwords and accumulating potent amulets to assure their soul's steady navigation through the 7 heavenly spheres, lifting themselves out of the material world. This is why it was so important for the orthodoxy to distance themselves from the Gnostics and their teachings, to associate with their practices, but above all, to say that Jesus had only appeared to be human was blasphemy. Thus, John writes that the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. For if he weren't human, what would the death and resurrection have meant? What would the life of Jesus have meant for the rest of us?